In this video, I want to share my close encounter with two sharks while I was free diving just nearby my house, actually. And I have dived like 3 days before that, and this day was very calm and water was clear. I felt something may happen, so I was out long time and farther out. On the way coming back, I saw few kingfish. And eventually, I found one, the legal size, 75 centimeter, I believe was the legal size. So I went after him and I got him. Unfortunately, the spear went into a softer part, so it went through the body. And therefore, he had more strength and he went under the kelp, and it was difficult to pull him out. So it took some time. But eventually, I could kill the fish and get him out of the kelp and brought up to the surface and put into the sack, which is on the float. The float was something I pulled when I speared fish, but now I have the fish into this float and the sack. Therefore, I can go another fish because I saw a snapper while I was down and fighting against this kingfish. And another kingfish came up, and I thought maybe I have another one. I haven't caught kingfish for the last 2 years, so I was very happy about the situation. But about that time, I noticed there was a big shark, about 3 meters long, popped up. Obviously, because of the blood coming out of the kingfish, they noticed. And it took time, therefore they had time to come by, and I was there. They came close to me, and I have to use my spear point to push him out, which is like 1.5 meters away, 5 foot away from me, and two of them. So I was going back and forth at the same time. I wanted to get out of the water, so I was starting to kick my fins toward the shore. While I was doing this to aim at the shore, I realized that I lost my spear. I may have accidentally triggered the spear, and then the shark must have bitten off the line, so it's gone. And I was not happy about it. I'm not quite sure why, but instead of the shark being the problem and all of that, I was more concerned about the lost spear, and I was thinking, how can I find it? You know, it's not easy to find those things down at the bottom of the ocean. But anyway, I could manage to pull myself out of the water. It took some 10 minutes of swimming, and I saved my life. I've seen and encountered sharks more than a dozen times in my life, so this shark I'm more familiar, and it's not like a great white or mako that I've encountered before. They are more quiet, so I'm used to it, but not two of them, the big size. So that must be surprising, but I wasn't complaining about the shark, but thinking about the spear. How can I retrieve it? It's an odd situation. So let me tie this encounter with shark with this spiritual thing and Brother Lawrence. In my days, I've been looking into the spiritual issues over again. About the year 2000, I had some experience, awakening. And the next 10 years or so, I studied a lot from Zen and Christianity and Sufis and others about what this thing is about. It was my interest for many years because it was not easy to understand what's going on. Plus, I had this experience when I was in high school. I read the Blaise Pascal's book, Pensée, which is thought pieces he had, and I felt like I had a big darkness surrounding me when I found that what's the point of having a fame or money in this little existence of human. So from that time I had interest in spirituality and especially into Zen because it was not easy for anyone to understand what Zen was. And I thought, well, at the older age, I can spend lots of time to study. So this is about studying myself, know thyself, but also figuring out what this life is about. In the year 2000, I had the big awakening moment from Vipassana, 10-day meditation course. And that triggered me to go deeper into it, not just Zen, but Christianity, Sufi, and others, various religions and various stories. And the story about Brother Lawrence comes out of that study. It was Daisetsu Suzuki, a Zen scholar, who mentioned about Brother Lawrence. And there's some literature about him, how he lived his life as a cook or working in the kitchen, but he decided to have presence of God be the guide to live his life. Nothing matters except that. And when I read his story, that triggered me a lot about Zen or spiritual pursuit and other religions like Shin Buddhism. And I noticed that the Shin or the Shinran is the one who is famous about the Shin Buddhism in Japan, has the similar notion of Amida Buddha, just like Brother Lawrence talk about the God. This branch of Buddhism, Shin Buddhism, has Amida Buddha more like God. And Saichi is one of the famous Myokonin who believed in this, and his saying is very much like the saying of Brother Lawrence. It may not be easy to capture what the essence of it, but basically, Brother Lawrence's case is that he would live only for the purpose of satisfying the God. So everything else didn't matter. So he lived purely, and whatever he could find, there's love of God always surrounding him. So he felt very secure and happy. And whenever he had trouble, he would go for the God to help him. And there's a love of God he felt, and there's such a strong and absolute sense of how it is helping. So that's how he lived his life. Saichi's case from Shin Buddhism has the same notion. What I like about those specific examples are not just the conceptual or generic talk, but actual person in his life or their lives to be with God or Amida Buddha, and how they manifest their life according to the way of God. So I found the word "thy will be done" as the foundation of my belief after 10 years of search after my awakening, and that has a resonance to Brother Lawrence and Saichi from Japan. They seem to be not intellectually advanced, but the devotion and sincerity is something resonated with me. And out of that is a simple way of living, which is like while we have the mind to play with, we want to have a connection to the root of our being, which is God presence. Or my usual way to explain that is the laws of the universe that is prevailing. And as much as I feel I am the miracle coming out of nowhere, but some odd combination of the atoms or molecules put together, and I'm here talking like this as if I know what's going on, but it's just a miracle, nothing but the miracle that I exist. So those ideas that, as I shared, the miracle in living, is how I found Saichi or Brother Lawrence shares. And their way is not as intellectually oriented, but more of a feeling, emotionally, and the love that they feel from God or Amida Buddha, that they are saved because of them. In my case, I have the engineering background and more interest in my early days in technology and so forth, and intellect. So the Zen is more by intellect oriented, but the Shin Buddhism is more by emotion. And often those are the ones who are not intellectually gifted, but more simple and believe in their view that God will save them. So they throw themselves out to God for the help. Whatever happens, that's the relationship. As a matter of fact, the example of Saichi is interesting. He's just a peasant, or he's actually carving the sandals from wood. That's what he did. And he made little notes here and there. One of the stories that I remember is that he was sleeping right next to the room where the Buddha may be sitting, for the ceremony. And people said to him, "Why are you doing like this? This is a sacred place." And his answer was, "What are you talking about? I'm next to my Oya-sama," which means my parent. Dear my parent, I'm just next to him and being with him comfortably. What's wrong with it? So that's the indication of how he felt close to Amida Buddha. Or you can replace the word Amida Buddha to God. You may have a different notion for Westerners about the God. But Brother Lawrence, his view is very similar. He would give out everything for the love of God. So just those two examples are the ones that I've been thinking about and trying to relate to, among other exploration I have done. Like I said, I've done lots of exploration between year 2000 and 2010, but out in the society and back and being quiet in my life at the older age, I have revisited lots of stuff again. And I was surprised that I was so much into detail that I studied before. But again, revisiting, I realized the importance and like a reawakening to the point that I was amazed at how I was so much immersed myself at the time. And now I can reconnect and be rediscovering this whole point of spirituality in my way. It's not objectively discussed. It's a subjective experience in a sense of who we are and how we connect to what I call the laws of universe. That's the engineering term. But you can replace the laws of universe by the God, infinite intelligence and love. And that's what I'm very much attracted. So how much more time I have in my life, but I'm so impressed by Brother Lawrence and Saichi, revisiting and rereading what I've written and posted and shared in the homepage and so forth, mostly in Japanese, unfortunately. But I'm making sure, I want to make sure that I be sincere and truthful to live my life, and less perhaps intellectually driven, but more emotionally connected. The love of God, like Lawrence or Saichi mentioned about. It's a feeling of connection, and there are many ways to look at the situation, and this is one, that the Zen may be more intellectually oriented, but the Shin Buddhism may be more emotionally oriented. It doesn't matter to me. As much as I was curious from my younger days, wanting to explore the world, and I left Japan to the US and other countries and traveled a lot, and I've been satisfied in exploring in many ways, but I cannot stop doing this. It may be a fault But at the same time, there's some genuine sense of childlikeness to want to explore the world and amazed about the miracles happening and connected to that. I have captured lots of stories and posted on YouTube, and I have drawn flowcharts and reference materials to capture, as if this is the second and probably most likely the last round, and I may not be as clear in my mind and the logic and all of that compared to about 12 years ago when I summarized, came to the conclusion of thy will be done is the ultimate. And on one hand is know thyself. That lead me to thy will be done. And 12 years later, living now, going through so many experiences still because of my curiosity, I'm still searching or identifying me in the sense of what Saichi or Lawrence may have felt my way. How I may live from here is unknown, but what I am to say is that all the discussion I had in many videos, I talked about awareness or melting into the nature. I am that I am, the state of being in the now, stillness, vast emptiness, and finding me as like a blue sky, boundless, void, no mind, empty mind, into the zone and flow, or spacing out even, and realize I am the miracle as I am, as it is. Those words and more are all pointing the same. It's the usual Zen saying, finger is pointing the moon. Don't study the finger, but understand or realize what the moon may signify in living your life. And I'm hoping that this basic message I'm getting from Brother Lawrence and Saichi, not intellectually oriented, but very open, sincere, truthful in their love of God, as if talking to God all the time, living with God all the time, has such an appeal to me. It may be funny for some of those who may know me saying something like this, but that's my summary that I wanted to capture in this video. Shark is a manifestation of laws of nature of God. Myself is a miracle. Within myself, all the cells are functioning on its own as if they represent the laws of the universe or the will of God. And somehow they can find a way to synthesize and for us to live well with love and wisdom, or compassion and wisdom. That's what I see. It's as simple as that. And whatever the term we use, if we understand and capture the essence of it, I sense we'll find the meaning of thy will be done and the meaning that Saichi or Brother Lawrence may have found in the way they live. Nothing more. It's the absolute force, the laws of the universe prevailing, instead of us caught up in the mind and getting lost. There's something to be considered and looked into internally, at least for my case, before I close up my life. It may be a continuous process, and that's what I noticed from the saying of Saichi or Brother Lawrence. And we may be incomplete, but we are complete in its own sake too. Incomplete as human being and human mind, but it's already complete as the way of the universe, because that's how the universe is manifesting through us. So it's a paradoxical experience or explanation, but that's the connection that I see. Thank you.